Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a very, very warm welcome to all of you to this evening's webinar, our weekly webinar at Higher. And today we're going to be talking about something which all of us during the pandemic particularly have been consciously trying to adopt, but both for ourselves as well as for our students. But we do know that enough strategies for that are never enough. So how is it that we can learn to be more mindful as educators, as well as develop mindfulness habits in our students? That's the focus of our webinar for this evening. And we're extremely excited to welcome all of you once again back to Higher. To those of you who are new to Higher, we are an online platform for learning for K-12 educators. Every week, we bring together global experts from around the world who talk to you about classroom strategies, tips and tricks to help you improve your classroom teaching, and also help you share your own ideas with one another here on this live session. So before I move ahead with today's session, I just wanted to start very quickly by sharing my screen and taking all of you through our housekeeping rules for this evening. If you just very quickly allow me to share my screen, I will take you all through that as we get started. In the meanwhile, we know that others will keep joining us, and as the session grows, we can then move on to talking about our activities for the day. So just to get us started during this webinar, the panelists can't see you and will not be using the raise your hand feature. Please only use the Q&A option to ask questions. This will help us find your questions faster. You'll also notice that in the Q&A box, we do have an upvote option present. On that upvote option, you'll be able to upvote questions that you would like the panelists to answer, even though you haven't asked that question yourself, but you find it an interesting question and you'd like to have that answered for you as well. We do ask all of you to be very, very active in the chat. Please talk to one another, please share ideas and exchange your questions as well as your own observations, and go around responding to one another's comments as well. But in all of this, we do request you to be mindful of being respectful, of extending as much kindness as you can towards one another, and to be courteous. The webinar recordings and PPTs will be made available to all participants, and we'll be sharing these across via email to all of those of you who have registered. At Higher, our webinars now do offer certificates, but to get these certificates, we do need to hear a little bit from you about what you learned in the session today. So just very quickly talking you through how you can apply for a certificate of appreciation for today's webinar. You can submit your response as any one of the following options. You can send us a sketch note or a drawing, which is depicting the key takeaways from today's session. You can put together a classroom activity or an idea which is inspired by what you've heard in today's session, or perhaps even something that you have already done which you think resonates with what the panelists today are talking about. Or you could enter a 150-word reflection on any one idea or inspirational moment from today's session which really you found really interesting, or which is something that resonated with you and your teaching practice. To share your responses, we've made this process a little smoother for you and a little more accessible as well. You can submit the Google form, which will be shared at the end of this session today. A link for the Google form will be sent out. You can submit your responses through that Google form. You no longer need to send us an email, so you don't have to go back and forth asking us whether or not we received your response or whether you thought it was okay. The Google form will give you all the answers, and you'll be also able to receive a copy of the response that you submit. So that will make things really easy and smooth for all participants today. All right, so that's about this session. I also wanted to open in today's session, talk to you about our super contributors from last week's session, which was on making learning visible. And our super contributors for this week are Ikjot Kaur from the Shiv Nadar School in New Delhi. We have Sangeeta Nair from the Indian school, from the Indian Public School in Erode. We have Zainab Master from the Ravdat Al Quran, Mumbai. We have Vedahi Nagtode from Glendale Academy, Hyderabad, and Himani Mehta from in Ghaziabad. So these are our super contributors. I'll very quickly take you over what they submitted in their responses. You can see these on the screen, and you'll also be able to access these beautiful activities and sketch notes on Higher Teacher Tribe's Facebook group. Ikjot submitted a fantastic visualization comprehension activity for her English language learners. For Zainab, you were able to see how a fantastic quilt is being patched together using student responses, and she's used this activity for math fractions, which was absolutely fantastic. And she's also put out rubrics for all of you to be able to go back and see how is it that your students have performed on the task, and to give your students feedback. So you can definitely take some cues from the activities shared by Ikjot and Zainab. We also had two beautiful sketch notes coming in from Vedahi Piramal and Himani Mehta. Vedahi created a sketch note for the salt satyagrah, which she has prepared for her students to talk to them a little bit about the Indian independence movement and Gandhiji's contribution. And Himani has made a beautiful sketch note talking about the monarch butterfly. So you can access both of these wonderful sketch notes and perhaps use them in your own classroom. Last but not the least is this great sketch note depicting Sangeeta's takeaways from the session, where she's talked about what are the different aspects that really resonated with her and how she plans on implementing these in her classroom as well. So that's it from me for today's housekeeping rules as well as announcements and so on. I'm going to take you all straight to a very interesting conversation that's happening right now as we speak. And well, I'm going to leave you to figure out what these two wonderful ladies are talking about, and then we'll take it on from there. So over to you.
Hey, Aarti, how are you today? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling wonderful, but Shilpi, you know what? There have been days during this lockdown that I felt I can't sit in this home anymore. And then I realized there was something that you and me always did, mindfulness. Are you
Absolutely.
doing it first thing in the morning or late in the evening? I wonder how.
You know what? As far as I think, I do it all the time. Mindfulness is not something where I have to do it in the morning or in the evening. I can do it when I'm sitting. I can do it when I'm walking. I'm doing my dishes. I'm cooking. It's all about just being in the moment. And I mean, it's about being present, being aware, being kind, being relaxed. I think I can be mindful pretty much all the time. How about you, Arti?
There was something that came across to me which I found very interesting. It's not that I don't feel emotions anymore. It's just that I choose which emotion I want to respond to and how I respond to it. Earlier, when I felt an emotion, it would show on my face. But now I can take a step back, think about it, and then respond. It really helps me out with my teenager for sure. And my young one, when he does things which earlier used to trouble me, I can give him back a hug and say, all right, I'll get back to you on that, rather than responding in a snappier way. So I'm glad mindfulness came into our lives. So how long have you been doing this?
So I have been practicing mindfulness for nearly 7 years now. And almost 3 years back, I started Fablefy, where I bring mindfulness to everyone in a very easy way. And I feel that, when you were talking about your teenagers, I felt that like literally packed the essence of mindfulness in one, sentence, which is, mindfulness is the quality of bringing attention to the present moment without judgment, with curiosity, and with deep compassion towards your own self. And to me, that is the power of mindfulness. How about you, Aarti? How long have you been doing mindfulness?
Shilpi, I'll have to give you a ditto for that. And it is about 7 years for me too. But honest practice with other children has been for about 5 years. Um, I must tell you about this little boy. So, a very bright child, but would refuse to settle down in class. And many a times would have his feet on the desk. And you do realize that in a basic classroom setting, it doesn't work out. And the teacher and the children do get distracted with such a scenario. But guess what? The moment that Mindfulness Corner moved from just my simple room to his classroom, and he was in charge of the classroom mindfulness and he became an ambassador, there was this amazing change. It didn't happen in a day. After all, it's not a magic stick. But it did happen gradually. And by the end of it, there was not just me saying that how amazing this little boy is. It was everybody, because he was so much more poised. He was in control of his body, the way his mind worked. And he had this little scribble pad, which he would, when his ideas were popping in his head, he would just note it down, put it back into his pocket, and he was ready to hear you again. So I realized the focus was something that students started to develop as a general note. How about you? What all did you see in the children?
So I have worked with really difficult population, and that is the population that's in the juvenile justice center. I mean, kids who are sent into the prison system, and they are the most difficult kids, usually with a history of, some form of crime. So I started going into the prison and started working on mindfulness with them. And it's a really dysfunctional environment because, people don't like, the cops don't like the kids and the kids don't like the cops. And they don't even like the teachers who come in because everybody tends to come with a stick. Everybody wants to be in control. And, typical teacher-student relationship where the teacher wants to be in the control and the student wants to resist that control. And when I started practicing mindfulness with them, everybody, the class used to be absolutely quiet. And it was a big surprise to the cops and other teachers as to how this class is not as dysfunctional as, the other classes or, the other times they have with the students. And the primary reason for that was that when you're, practicing mindfulness, you're bringing that compassion, not just to yourself, but to everybody around you, to all those kids. And when you're not being judgmental, the kids can see that. The kids can see, and then they can create that open space where they can not just focus, but they can be, in a very emotionally manageable space, and you can, influence them in a positive direction. So we did this beautiful reflection activity with them where we talked about their dreams, and, pretty much everyone gives up on their dreams once they're in the juvenile justice center because they think they're stuck. And that to me was the most powerful epiphany. I mean, in the sense that these kids here are somebody wanted to be a chef, somebody wanted to be a basketball player. And that was a breakthrough because kind of breaking them from that realm of, keeping their minds in the justice system and allowing them to dream. And isn't that a beautiful gift that we can give to all our students? And
when you talk about all of this, it also reminds me when I work with the college students. Now, college students feel that freedom of using their self-identity to showcase how much they can show their presence in a classroom setting. And I usually realize that to form a rapport, I had to play games with them. And mindfulness was the go-to strategy for me to get their attention and for them to start forming that trust. Because for once, like you said, it's the children's hope, the children's dreams that come through. And with all these little activities that we have been gifted with mindfulness, it just comes shining through, and the child feels, I have a voice. So be it a 5-year-old or a 20-year-old, the moment the person is being acknowledged and heard, they respond and form a rapport with you faster than any other thing we could have ever tried out. But what about, I do remember one little boy who came up to me and said, Miss, isn't mindfulness all about religion? What's your take on that? Do you think it's religious?
I don't think so. But how about this, that we take our participants through mindfulness activity, and then when we come to the latter part of the presentation, we can talk about that as well. What do you think? Great
I think
idea.
Great idea. I think now what we should do is you and me do it together, and all the participants could just feel it and experience it with us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm trying to, okay. So let's just do the opening activity.
Rub your hands, cover your eyes, just get comfortable with wherever you're sitting. And think about one happy feeling, something that makes you smile, something that makes you feel absolutely wonderful. Is it a warm, snuggly blanket? Is it a warm hug? And now, Shilpi will take us through a beautiful moment of visualization.
So all of you here with me, just close your eyes and take 3 deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. In through your nose and out through your mouth. One last breath. And as you sit there, just feel where the breath is entering you. Is it warm? Is it cold? Where in your body you're feeling your breath? As it enters through your nose, into your lungs, into your tummy, and out of your tummy, back into your lungs and out through your nose. And you may have thoughts passing by. Just take a distance away from them and bring your attention back to your breath. Let your breath be your anchor to the present moment. And just take a quick glance at your body and see how you're feeling. Any aches, any tension, anything in your body, just observe it. And when you're ready, take a deep breath in and just rub your hands, take them over your face, and take a deep sigh. And when you're ready, open your eyes. So I think that was our presentation, that was our opening activity, and I hope the participants go through and let us know how they felt during that brief activity of mindfulness. Yeah.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much, ladies and participants. Now that you have experienced both our wonderful panelists, let me also formally introduce both of them to you. I'd like you to please join me in welcoming our panelists for today. We first have with us Shilpi Mahajan. Shilpi is the founder of Fablefy. Shilpi is and has been working with students across ages on developing mindfulness habits and is an expert mindfulness practitioner. And she's joining us today from the US. And the next person that I'd like to introduce you to is Aarti Bakshi. Aarti is the school counselor at Pathway School in Noida, and she has been working, like she mentioned, both with students at primary school as well as with some students at college level who she mentors on mindfulness practices. So thank you so much to both our panelists for having joined us today. And I'd like to welcome both of you formally, and thank you so much for that invigorating and very, very relaxing opening activity. So now I'm going to leave our participants into the wonderful hands of Aarti and Shilpi to talk more about how we can develop mindfulness as a student habit, how we can bring our students and center their consciousness into both their academic as well as their own personal lives. And not to forget how we as educators can develop mindfulness habits of our own. So over to you, Aarti and Shilpi, to talk about this extremely, extremely crucial need of the hour today in remote teaching and learning.
Thank you so much, Pallavi, and thank you for having us. We are always very excited spreading the mindfulness world.
Yeah, thanks, Pallavi. It's an honor always to, talk about mindfulness anywhere. So we just move to the next screen. I think the key themes around today's conversations are going to be debunking myths around mindfulness, how you can practically implement in the classroom, and the virtual strategies that we can use to bring mindfulness in today's world, like the COVID world when all of you are teaching remote. Just before we start the debunking, I wanted to share this particular image specifically because I had like a conversation with a person here in the US, and he came to me and asked me, what is mindfulness? And before I could say, isn't it when your mind is too full? And I was like, hold on, mindfulness is just the opposite of when your mind is too full. It's when you can distance yourself as a passive observer to whatever is happening in your mind. And even when it's full, you are at peace with yourself. You're totally in the moment, like this dog in the image who is, just thinking about what he's seeing, and the human that we are always, occupied with our thoughts. So Aarti, coming back to your original question, is mindfulness religious? What do you have to say about it?
So I know that usually we link it to a lot of religious activities because we see a certain religion moving towards a lot of sitting down. But it's not that. I have noticed that even while we are traveling, there are certain people who seem very calm. They're very busy just reading a book. Or I've seen a lot of youngsters nowadays taking out their coloring books and perhaps coloring a mandala or some intricate painting. There have been times when I have seen people so still that I thought that they were listening to music, but they weren't. They were just observing, observing as if they were watching TV. And nothing was affecting them. There were thoughts, positives and negatives, I'm sure about that. But they just watched. They just watched as the world went by. And I felt quite at peace just watching them. So I do realize that it's not religious, but it is being there, just centered in yourself. Like, that inner glow, that white light that comes within us when we think of something beautiful. And for me, I feel mindfulness is all about happiness. Because for me, the moment I do mindfulness, I'm more cheerful. So I don't know. I don't think it's religious at all. But yes, it is centering for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, while I do think that mindfulness, when it started as a tradition, it was introduced by Dr. John Kabat-Zinn in the West. it has its underpinnings in the Buddhist tradition and the Buddhist form of mindfulness, but in essential, when it's practiced on a day-to-day basis, it's all about connecting with yourself. It's all about, as you rightly use the word centered, it's all about centeredness. It's all about gratitude. It's all about, loving kindness practices wherein we not just love ourselves but love others. I mean, I remember Pallavi said at the very beginning, be kind to others, and being kind to others is an essential form of the practice of mindfulness. And it's all about being right here, right now. So even if if I am in this presentation but thinking about, oh my God, at 8:30 now I have another call, or I'm thinking about all the things I have to do through the day, because our minds are like monkey minds. We keep on moving from one thought to another. But the minute we practice being in the moment constantly, we bring that connection scientifically between our limbic system and our thinking brain, and we come back to the moment and we are able to make more effective decisions. So in a way, mindfulness is not at all religious, even when the underpinnings are religious. It's more, I would say, secular and spiritual in nature.
I also feel that, like what you've said about the bendy legs and being still. Well, haven't you seen people just walking around being very mindful and not bumping into each other? So, so I guess it's not about just sitting still. It could be coloring and painting like you and me have always experienced, or even setting an entire puzzle together. I feel my highest focus has been the tougher the puzzle, the tinier the pieces when you're trying to put it all together. And come to think of it, life's quite like a jigsaw puzzle. You forever are trying to put the pieces and making it look pretty perfect. Mindfulness doesn't make it perfect, but it lets you absorb the present and accept the present, have the gaps in the puzzle, and yet let it be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's beautifully put. And I mean, I think that walking, coming back to what you said, like people are walking and they're being mindful. In fact, walking meditation is kind of a form of meditation. And you usually practice it when you're like walking with presence, with centeredness. Like when you put your foot on the floor, you're actually feeling the ground. You observe the sounds around you. You watch what's there. You stop and smell that flower, and not just let yourself get totally entrenched into the day-to-day of life. So to me, again, it's not about being still. You can be mindful even while making your beds. I call it stealth mindfulness. Like you're making your bed, you're doing your dishes, and you're just feeling the water on your hands. Or even you're like, pressing your bed, you're actually feeling the fabric, you're feeling whether the texture, is it soft, is it, rough, you feel the smell of the detergent that's coming. And that's all the things that are bringing you back into the moment.
So you mean to say it's about understanding and accepting your senses, about like what we can see and hear and feel? And
absolutely. And I mean, senses is what, the things that are with you all the time is your body and your breath. And anytime you connect yourself with the body and, outwardly, senses is one of the things that are very easy, that helps you connect with the moment very easily. So obviously you can, one of the major grounding practices is 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things that you can
smell,
2 things you can touch, and 1 thing you can eat. So
I love the taste part. I just can't wait for that raisin or that sweet thing. Me with my sweet tooth, I always am waiting for that sweetness and to pass on either whichever chocolate or gem that you have in your hand to the children and just say, feel. That is heaven. But there was one of the things that popped up to say, is mindfulness all about value education? So when we were in SEL, that is social emotional learning, value education, social emotional learning. As kids, you and me must have even done moral science.
Yeah.
Is it the same? Is all of it? What do you feel? Do you remember that one that we continuously talked about? You know, those zones of emotions, and how when children just walked into a classroom in complete silence and putting in that coin that I'm
Yeah.
feeling calm, or I'm not feeling
Mhm.
too bright today, and putting in perhaps a red thing because I've just had a little fight with my best friend in the bus and I'm not at peace. So, all of that, was it all mindfulness? When you felt your emotion, you realized that I don't need to react to it, but I need to respond to it. What do you feel, Shilpi, about this?
So the way I look, I mean, absolutely that's mindfulness, but the way I look at it is social emotional learning is a very outside in approach to learning about yourself and about self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, the 5 competencies. I'm so sorry about this, guys.
Don't be, but that's also being
It's early in
mindful.
the morning here. Yeah,
Walk in and out. I'm
yeah.
hoping my little beagle doesn't walk in and jump around. So it's okay.
And mindfulness is essentially an inside out approach to social emotionally understanding yourself. So, I mean, the most common framework that we use for SEL is the CASEL framework, right? I mean, which it has the
Yes.
5 competencies: the social awareness, self management, responsible decision making, and relationship management. And when we really work with mindfulness, we actually make a longer lasting changes to having worked on all these 5 aspects of the social emotional learning competencies on in the case of framework. So to me, mindfulness is no different from SEL. It's just that it's a different approach to all the 5 competencies, and put together they can beautifully help us lead our children to a better life, better managing of self, and better managing of the relationships with others.
And more than all of this, they can do it in just 2 minutes, and they don't need hours behind it. It could be as simple as when they are traveling and they're looking out of the bus window, that's
Mhm.
being mindful. When they're sitting down and having some music in the background, that's being mindful. Or when they walk into a classroom and they know that after keeping their bags, all that they need to do is sit down on the carpet or sit on their desks without making a noise, being
Mhm.
mindful of the environment and the other students around,
Mhm.
rubbing their hands, and just what you and me did, the visualization. Something to
Mhm.
that extent, pause and think, and pause and come back to the world.
Absolutely. I mean, we just showcased it at the beginning of the session that, we help everybody with the grounding right at the beginning of the session. And I think we took in all 3 minutes to ground us. So I mean, it's a myth to think that we need hours and hours to do mindfulness. Even if we have a minute of stop, like do a stop, like stop and observe and then proceed, we can actually we in that moment, in that one single moment, we are practicing mindfulness.
It's a very surprising thing, but it just reminded me of this Robert Frost poem, which says, "No time to stand and stare." I think he must be talking about mindfulness for all we knew.
Absolutely. So let's take our let's make the case for mindfulness even more robust and take our participants through the research findings on mindfulness. And I mean, I can go on and on as to the benefits of mindfulness, but on the academic front, mindfulness actually improves cognitive performance, your school self-concept and engagement. And I've attached, once the participants get the presentation, I've attached one of the studies to the slide. This is just one of the stats from there, that the math success improved by 14%. There's great attention and, of course, a reduction of anxiety in high stakes testing. Um, I just want to say that when you're practicing mindfulness, it's neuroscientifically, you are actually connecting two different parts of the brain. So right before kids are taking high stakes testing, their amygdala, which is like the flight, fight, and freeze response, that part of the brain is like in an overdrive. And they are just so anxious. Like my daughter was taking a test yesterday, and I could see her anxiety. And all I did was, just practice, say, a 4-7-8 breathing, and just relax. And the minute you breathe, it's amazing how it happens that you create a connection between this amygdala and the prefrontal cortex, which is the thinking part of the brain. And suddenly you realize, no, what am I doing? I mean, I have to come back to the moment, and I have to start working on what's right there in front of me. So I feel mindfulness can go a long way in improving, even if you practice it for 5 minutes in your classrooms, can go a long way in improving the academic performance of your own classroom.
There is something that I personally realized was the things for what children start to make excuses of not finishing their work stops. Their basic fights between each other stops because they resolve it. They are problem solvers by the end of it. So things like bullying, maybe just verbal bullying, stops. It goes so slowly down that it is a consistent down. And by the end of about 6-8 months, you hardly have any case. They are more available to reach out to each other. They're more available to be kinder to not just others, but to themselves. There is something which I'd love, when we move on to the next slide, for just one little activity, Shilpi, if you'd allow me. One positive thing that you think about yourself, just put it in. When you think about yourself, what positive things do you think about yourself? And let's move on to our next slide then.
Okay. So
while you're thinking about all the positives, I am going to ask you to just do something with me. So you know how this is like a sleeping aid? And what Shilpi was talking about, the right and the left brain, and all those fancy words in the brain, I want you to just try doing the sleeping aid with both your hands as mirror images. Just try doing that. And now there is a trick, and which I'm going to ask you to do. Write your name in cursive as mirror images. I'm going to just try doing mine, and I'm going to show you what I mean. It takes children usually about a week. But when they do it, they realize that their brains are connecting. You know those neurons which look like palms? They start connecting. And your right and your left brain, the logical brain and your creative brain, starts to put it together. So what we just did is part of a brain gym activity. And you could try a lot with your children to do something to that extent. You can do it with standing or just sitting. And you can do it with your elbows. And you can do it with your entire hands. And it's an amazing thing when children come out to start doing it. Okay, there is a big word that comes up over here, which says growth mindset. What I believe is mistakes are normal. And we, like they say, to err is human. And right now, when mistakes are made, there is something that happens in your brain. When you try the same activity the next time, don't try this. Let me try a different method. The moment you think about it in that way, your growth mindset starts picking up. If that also doesn't work out, you'll have two methods which you don't need to try again, and you try out a third. It brings up a lot of consistency. It brings up a situation where children are not giving up and trying something more. And it brings out the unit called the power of yet, not giving up. So I personally feel mindfulness, if you do continue doing it, this is what comes out in a big, big way. Because goal setting is no more, I am wrong, I cannot do this. The goal setting comes in, I cannot do this now, but, or yet, I could try out this to achieve it. So the moment you put on that power of yet, the goal setting becomes a very easily achievable subtopics. You can break it down into sub goals. And how do I achieve it? It could be something like handwriting. I do not write well yet. With a little bit of practice, I could achieve it within. And you give yourself about a month. Shilpi, your take at it.
No, absolutely. I mean, it brings me back to a story that you shared with me earlier on, like about this guy who asked us to set the goals and said that what if, and I've heard this over and over again, what if you would not fail?
Yes, I love that one.
In fact, I would like the participants to take a moment to reflect on this as to what is it that they would like to achieve, and what if they are not going to fail and they had all the time and all the resources in the world right now. And and think through this, reflect through this, because most of the times we attach too much importance to our failures, and as a result we don't really dive in. We don't have, I mean, in mindfulness there's a very common phrase which is called the beginner's mind. It's the act of approaching each problem as if you're starting it afresh.
Like a clean slate.
Like a clean slate. And when you are practicing mindfulness constantly, like, every single day, and coming to the point of responding, not reacting, and just observing, you're not carrying your baggage with you, the baggage of your life, your failures. I mean, our kids also have baggages. I mean, they're growing up. I mean, not as much as adults, but they also have, like, the constant fear of failure, the constant fear of not getting a good grade. And in the process, we make them lose the beginner's mind, the mind that allows them to experiment, the mind that allows them to fail, the mind that tells them that, no, you don't have to respond, you don't have to react to the situation, but you just have to respond in a very positive manner. So, I mean, I think this is a beautiful practice if we think about our goals in a way where we are not really thinking about the failures and the fact that we have all the resources in the world. What is it that we can achieve?
So let's try out those resources. Let's move on and show them a few resources, which we could try them right now with them.
Absolutely. So this is a very easy resource, and it's great for pandemic fatigue. There are two right here, which is rain and stop. I'll go to stop first. So stop is just the practice of, simple as that, stopping, which is S as in stop, T as in taking a deep breath. So just take a deep breath. Just take that moment of pause and observe what is it that you're feeling. Sometimes the emotion that you're feeling may not be even related to the immediate problem in front of you. I mean, especially your students, say maybe they had a bad start to the day. Mommy, they did. I mean, many kids in my class come sometimes without breakfast, so they didn't even have food to eat, and they're not able to work on a math problem. And so when you take that step back and observe, what is it that I'm feeling? Oh, maybe I'm just hungry. Maybe I can ask the teacher for a snack, or maybe, I can take a snack. So you're observing there, and then you proceed. You work on it, and then you proceed. And this is something that older people can do. You can do it with a younger student. You can use illustrations. You can put it in your class, and you can just point them in that direction during the class. Okay, guys, it's time to stop. And just ask them, just make it a practice. And once, you practice with them on a daily basis, it becomes intuitive. You can have brand ambassadors in the class who can, come and practice mindfulness in the classroom. The other practice we do is rain. Rain is very similar to what I'm going to do in the next slide, which is recognizing the emotion and allowing the emotion to occur. It's not like if I'm feeling sad, I won't allow myself to be sad. I'm allowing it. I give myself the permission to feel it, that whatever I'm feeling. I mean, we have a range of emotions in our body, in our lives, and we give ourselves the permission to feel it. And then we investigate the emotion as to what is it that is happening to me? Why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? And then allow a natural awareness to take over, where we, come in contact with our body and let the emotion flow by, because most emotions or most thoughts are like bubbles. They'll eventually pop, They won't stay for a very long time. They're eventually going to pop only if we allow themselves to be. So, and then the next is something that you can do on a daily basis. And I would strongly, strongly recommend you all to do in your remote learning classes. I know it's a little extra, but most of the kids have no check-ins. You know, parents are busy. They may be having, like today I got up and I just got on the call. I haven't even had chance to speak to my kids. So if I as a mindfulness practitioner can make that error, or can fall back, you as a teacher can just send in a morning check-in. How are you feeling today? It's just about acknowledgement, and also about telling them that they're allowed to feel whatever they are feeling. And again, in the process, there's a very common term used. It's a term by Dan Siegel, which is name it to tame it. So the minute you name your emotion, you actually tame your emotion, because it comes back to that connection between your prehistoric brain and your thinking brain. So you're using your thinking brain to name that emotion, and that's when you're making your thinking brain in charge. So that's from me. You want to take over, Aarti, here?
Yes, I want to show you a hand model. When you have a few disturbances in class, this hand model is something which I tried out with even my grade 2s, and I've tried out with the college students, and it works out through and through. So let me show you how it goes. So this is the brain cap. This is the brain that makes us all human. This is the brain which is the part which is labeled 3 in the diagram, the prefrontal cortex. This is the brain that makes you wise and decision and problem solvers. When we are thinking without any thought, without any kindness, without any empathy towards anything, and I'm just reacting to the emotion, I'm not naming my emotion, I'm just getting angry and I'm reacting. This is exactly what comes up. The brain cap opens up and it gets into this position. The moment you show this and you say, so what does this look like? So many kids start saying, so Shilpi, what does this look like?
It looks like a snake.
Yes, that's correct. So the reptile part of you, the animal part of you takes over, and you are no longer in control of yourself. And when that happens, that is the time when you are reacting. So the moment you say, take a deep breath, let your brain cap come back, let it relax, let it settle down, let it calm down. This is where the children understand that a deep breath gets me to stay calm. So, a simple thing like 3 deep breaths, a simple thing like, all right, do you want to sit down and think about it? Do you want to doodle about it? Do you want to just consider what really happened? So you can just ask them, what happened? How did you feel about it? What else could you have done? And that's it. And they know exactly what they should do the next time. And usually children come back and say, I wish I hadn't done that. And they're adorable onto that, because this is such a simple thing. Even when you're having a virtual and you're seeing some child not doing something, you can just do this. And most kids hold on to their fists and say, I'm in control. So that's what worked out with me in a virtual platform, that the class disturbances started disappearing.
Yeah, so that's a beautiful way of explaining it. We have like a really nice printable I should have shared, which talks about the amygdala being the jumpy monkey and the prefrontal cortex being the wise owl.
Yes.
And when kids understand, when they relate the brain, when they understand that the brain, they are taming their brain, they
feel in control.
They feel in control, because they think, okay, I'm thinking. My kids do like this. Oh, yes, I'm thinking now. And usually we go like, okay, let's have a big giant balloon. Let's breathe in, and then let's go pop. and then they go like this. So when you go pop, we are saying we are letting go of everything that we are holding on to. So I think there are beautiful practices that we can integrate to make our kids understand how they
And
can.
it reminds me of that one which you just told, the thinking cap. Just let's
Yeah.
put on a thinking cap and have our elephant ears open, eyes on me, hold on to your hands. Are you there? You know, you and me have done this so often that I guess, you know, we love doing this. All right, strong as a soldier. Are you sitting
Yeah.
straight? Do you have your thinking hat?
Thinking
Have you
caps.
put your eyes on me? And I love the way, you know, how the children do that. I have my eyes on you, miss.
Eyes on you. Yeah.
Oh,
So
these are adorable ones. And some of them have worked out so wonderful for you and me, Shilpi. The bubble
absolutely.
breaths. Have
The
you tried out, you know, just blowing bubbles where you're sitting and virtually just letting them say, do this? There are these apps which sprout out those bubbles and children love counting them.
Absolutely. Bubble breaths is my favorite activity with the younger ones, like the kindergarten and the first grader. And I usually like them to go pop the bubbles, because then they have to follow the bubble. And really speaking, they have to, like, literally, it's a focus activity in many ways. They go follow the bubble and the kids love it. And it's a great in-between activity if you're doing a breathing session with them,
True,
because
true.
this activity adds movement. I mean, kids need constant movement with mindfulness. You know, even if it's about still, it's not about being still. You still end up having these moments when you actually have to make them breathe, because you want them to also understand awareness. And this becomes an excellent activity for them to include movement in their day. Great for
You
kids.
and me are going to be taking up just two more because we just have to tell the teachers what they can do. So, Miss, you want to do this is quite comfortable, the finding shapes in clouds. I'm sure that they do it. The buddy breathing, putting a pillow or a stuffed toy on their tummy, or feeling my heartbeat, you know, putting your hands on your heart and feeling it. But I love the squeeze and let go and the rainbow guided. So do you think you want to do the rainbow guided for the teachers? And I could just talk about the squeeze and let go.
You know what? Rainbow Guided is a longer meditation, because I mean this particular image is from our website, and
Yes, it
it's
is.
actually one of our meditations that we have online on YouTube.
So
It's
perhaps they could go up to
I
the website and check it out.
Yeah, but I can do the body scan, because body scan can be done in about 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes.
So I
So
think the teachers should just join us and get very comfortable. Sit down where you are. Just feel relaxed. Put your hands on your tummy. So we're going to explain you what the body scan is just right now. It's something like, imagine you are in this big, huge bubble of where your whole body is scanned in, like the medical world. Just like that, you're going to do it with your mind's eye. You're just going to do it with being all powerful with your mind's eye. So just get relaxed. Be as comfortable as possible. Take in a deep breath. Put your hands on your tummy. Shilpi, you want to go on?
yeah, just bring your attention. I would recommend that you close your eyes. It's easier, but if you can't, it's fine too. And just bring your attention to the top of your head, and just see what you're feeling there. You may have some tension, some stress, some headache, or you may not feel anything at all, and that's fine too. And slowly bring your attention to your face. Um, See what you're feeling there. Is there any tightness? Is there any stiffness? Do you feel any tingling? Whatever it is, just observe it without any judgment, with curiosity, and with a deep sense of compassion towards yourself. As you go down, go to your neck, to your shoulders, and your arms. And just observe what you're feeling there. Again, there could be some tightness, some tingling. You may suddenly realize there is a pain. And at the same time, there may be thoughts going around in your head. And that's okay. Just watch those thoughts and bring your attention back to your body. Now take your attention to your back and just try to watch your spine bit by bit and see what you're feeling there. What is it that you're sensing there? And just watch. Just be very kind to yourself. Now slowly bring your attention to your legs and your feet and just watch what you're feeling there. Is there any pain? There may be some stress. You've been sitting the whole day. Your feet may be tired. Just watch without any judgment. There has to be no judgment in the process, no pity, no sense of telling yourself, oh God, this is so hard. And if thoughts come by, just bring your attention back to your body. And one last time, take a moment to see your whole body as one. What is it that you're sensing? What is it that you're feeling? With deep compassion, take one deep breath. When you're ready, open your eyes. So that's a body scan, and if the participants, they want, they can just reflect on what they felt during the process. And if there were no feelings, no sensations, that's fine too.
You know, it is quite amazing. If you do this just before your classes start, you would be at peace. And if you do it at the end of the day, you'll sleep like a baby. Being kind to yourself is the biggest thing that as teachers we all can do. Because once we are without our own baggages, we are kinder to each and every child in our class. So we're going to run through a lot of this. Like you can do your breathing in and breathing out just like this. And that's another mood meter which can be done. And Ms. Shilpi, let's go further.
Yeah, absolutely. So you want to take part? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to put it through because we've already covered this. It is name the emotion or name it to tame it. Do any kind of mood meter or something right there outside your classrooms. Now you can have it on the virtual screen and the children can just put it there. Sometimes you can put in music and it does come in as a very relaxing thing. Do your mindfulness activity. You can choose any that we have shown you today and discover a few more. And finally, just let the children talk. You know, it could be just 1 minute in the chat. Speak what you feel about it. And that's it. Like a lot of you are speaking about relax and all of that. Yes. Okay, so this is all the sources that we have put together. Obviously, you can try out so much. I love all of them, like from Fable 5, which is Shilpi's, to Settle Your Glitter. You know, all of them are such amazing sites, and you can just continue trying it out and moving towards it. So this is something that I want you to understand. If as a grown-up you have a 5 minutes focus, then as a child you have 45 seconds. Just consider that. And we leave you on that note. Miss, let's just show the last bit of it if they want to get in touch with us.
Let's put this slide, but I think we should just definitely touch base on this slide because I know, Pallavi, we are running out of time. Just give me 2 minutes. Because I mean, I think since it's Mental Health Day and our focus has been all about mindfulness for students, we really need to talk about mindfulness for teachers. Often, you know, you guys are always giving, 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 but you can only fill so much from an empty bucket. So I urge you all to take time to, you know, respect yourself,
And
have
be kind
compassion,
to
give
yourself.
yourself a hug, because whole teachers are the ones who speak to the whole child.
So
Have
do
your
you
back.
want to do that hug thing right now with them and let them feel it?
Yep, we can do that quickly if that's okay.
So
So just,
remember things that are in control, hold it and hug yourself.
yeah, just hug yourself. Just all of you give yourself a deep, tight hug right now, because it's all about self-compassion. You need to have that. It's self-compassion is not self-esteem. It's not being selfish. You owe it to yourself as teachers. So Pallavi, back to you. I think we said enough.
Thank you so much, Shilpi, and thank you so very much to Aarti as well. I think this has been absolutely fantastic. I think what has been one of the most amazing takeaways for me from this session is that it's not always when we're talking about mindfulness, it's not just about meditation. It's not just about, you know, peaceful, calming music. It's not just about lighting incense sticks. It's not just about doing activities one-off with your kids, you know, once in a while maybe, or on a day when you feel that they're feeling excessively stressed out. But it's about cultivating a way of being. And I think, Shilpi, what you said at the end really sums it up for us so well, that whole educators can nurture whole children. So for us to be able to do this for our own students, it's important for us to look inwards first and become more at ease and at peace with ourselves, because a lot of this we take with us to the classrooms. And perhaps I think I'd speak for practically everybody here when we say that a bad day at home is almost always a bad day in the classroom, unless we learn how to sort out and be more mindful with our own with the way in which we deal with things in the classroom and back home. Okay, so on that note, we have 3 quick questions that I thought we'll just share with both of you. These have come in from the Facebook group. The first is by Keras Kapala, who is wanting to know about what sort of mindfulness approaches can we adopt with kids who are low energy.
Okay, may I take that up, Shruti, for just once?
Yeah, sure.
Stretches. So try out stretches and make them feel as if they're detectives and they're finding out some things. So like a scavenger hunt. So you say, can you find something that's red around your room? Could you find something which is edible around this place? Can you just run up to the main door and see, was that a knock? I did hear that. The moment you do that for a minute or two, and because they are trying to vie against everybody else and it's a competition, the scavenger hunt works out wonders for children who don't like moving around.
Absolutely.
So I have an activity to share for low energy kids, which really works well, which is do the sitting still like a frog, but alternate it with the movement. Tell them, or you can, you know, be any animal. And we have this on the YouTube channel. I don't know, how can I share it? But I'll try and see how I can make it. But basically tell them that you're like a frog sitting on a lily pad, and make them jump from one lily pad to another. Imagine that they're jumping, and that lily pad moment is your moment of movement. And alternate it with moment of stillness, wherein they're sitting on the lily pad and taking 10 deep breaths. Breathing is as important for energy, bringing your energy up as the movement is. So that's one great strategy to use.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for those. There were 2 app-related questions. The first one was about if either of you can recommend any apps for mood meters online that teachers can use for exit or entry strategies.
I think there is an app on the mood meter by Yale School of Social and Emotional Learning. I'll have to just send it across to you, Pallavi, and you can share it with the participants. But just look up mood meter, just search it up.
And on Pinterest and Twinkle, there are ready-made ones which can just pop out throughout, and even Teachers Pay Teachers have a lot of these already created mood things, from mood bears to moodometers, and bouncy ball is an amazing way to also, I was just thinking, for the energy, that really works out for calming down the over energetic children down too.
Absolutely. Thank you both for that. And I know that we're running out of time, so we'll try and close this in. Thank you so much for taking in the questions as they were coming up, Aarti. And I know you answered quite a few of them while you were making your presentation as well. And it was a fantastic session today. It was great to think about mindfulness in ways that one typically doesn't think about mindfulness. You know, when we're looking at developing certain habits that go into the space of lifelong learning or lifelong skill development, I think mindfulness has a rock solid place right there, because without being mindful individuals, I don't suppose that we can expect our students to do well, to be good people, to be able to carry out even everyday tasks on everyday level effectively and efficiently. So thank you both so much for sharing this with us, especially with World Mental Health Day around the corner. I think it was an important conversation for us to have, and we're hoping that teachers will take some of this back into their classrooms and start inculcating mindfulness as a student habit. Just very quickly, as a reminder, today's session's recording as well as the PPT will be shared with all of you. We're going to, once the session finishes, there will be a pop-up for a Google form that will automatically show up on your screens. You can use that to submit your responses to get your certificates. We're also sharing the link now on the chat for all of you to be able to share your responses. You can copy paste this Google form link and you can use it to submit your responses. This will also be emailed to you along with the presentation and the recording for today's session later this evening. So the link is now in the chat. It's a Google form link and you will all be able to also access it automatically once this session finishes. So we look forward to receiving everybody's responses, and we also look forward to a continued conversation around mindfulness on the Facebook group, on our Twitter channel. So don't forget to follow us there and let us know how you used all these great strategies that Aarti and Shilpi have shared today, and how you have adopted these personally for your own selves as well. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you, Aarti. Thank you, Shilpi, once again. Look forward to having you back again next week, everybody, for our weekly webinar talking about effective classroom communication for teachers. So we look forward to seeing you then, and have a wonderful weekend ahead. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Pallavi. Bye, Shilpi.
Thank you, Patri. Bye, and thanks to all the participants. Yeah, bye-bye.